Hello everyone. In this video we'll look at how to transfer a design on a piece of metal. As an example, we'll use your first project, the 2 sawing exercises. Now, a word of advice, you might want to practice transferring your design on paper first a few times. This will help. Let's see what tools we need. A small ruler. Metal is better than plastic because it's more durable and it must be metric. Dividers. There are different types. Whatever the type, they must be precise, the legs must line up properly, and they must have very fine tips. This is adjustable. You see there is a spring. Scriber. This one is a basic scriber. We use a scriber a little bit like a pen to scribe or draw lines on metal. This is a double-ended pin vise, and these are replaceable tips. Also very sharp. Now, last tool, and the most important maybe, is a set square, a very important measuring tools. This one has a foot. There is a different kind without a foot. They are used to check whether a line is perpendicular to another line, so it's a 90-degree angle. Very important. Make sure it's on your bench within easy reach. For these exercises, the objective is to saw as precisely as possible, and this precision can only be achieved if our lines are very clear and very exact. So I will show you how to make a super precise scriber. We're going to use a double-ended, our double-ended pin vise. A double-ended pin vise is a small holder that's normally used to hold small pieces of wire, for instance. And this is how it works. You remove the top, and inside you have the holder that has different holes to accommodate different sizes of wire. Insert the wire, put the screw top in place, tighten it, and now you can hold your piece of wire. You can file it, shape it more comfortably. To make our precision scriber, we'll follow the same process. We'll insert one of the replaceable tips inside. You'll see what kind of hole fits the size of the tip, and then insert the tip, push in to secure it, and then finally put the top back on, tighten it to keep everything in place. And that's it. You now have a precision scriber with a very fine tip. And you can use it whenever you need to do super precise work, which is almost all the time. We hold the scriber a little bit like a pen, and you can use it to trace lines with a ruler or without on your piece of metal. There is no need to hold it too tightly. You make a line deep enough to make it visible and to follow it, but not so deep that you cannot remove it later. You need to take very good care of your scriber. Use a cork or a small rubber eraser to protect the tip so it remains very sharp and very precise. That's it. Now, what I want to show you is different other tools that can be used for design transfer. Let's look at markers, for instance. They have to be permanent markers. The brand doesn't matter as long as it specifies that it is a permanent ink marker. And of course, the finer, the better. Super fine or ultra fine are the best types. You can draw or trace lines that are quite fine, and because it is permanent ink, it does not rub off. It stays on. A pencil is not very useful because when you handle your piece of metal, you see that if you touch your pencil lines, they will end up rubbing off and disappearing completely. So you are left without any lines to follow. So to sum up, permanent markers are okay for work that doesn't require too much precision. I would not use a pencil because it really is not very practical and very useful, as it rubs off very quickly. For your sawing exercises, though, you must use your super precise scriber. Let's start with your first sawing exercise, which has the straight lines. First, set your dividers at 10 millimeters using your metal ruler. And you check again. Always double check your measurements. And then you will drag one tip of the dividers on the edge of your metal and trace a line all the way across. And remember, just one line. Now set your dividers at 15 millimeters. Double check your measurements and trace the second line using the same technique. And this line will be, of course, parallel to the first one. Now we need to mark at 20 millimeters on the right hand side of the plate, 20 millimeters, which would be the end of our saw line. We are not going to cut all the way across so that the plate stays together in one piece. Take your set square and trace a line on both parallel lines at the 20 millimeter mark. Now we'll work on the second set of straight lines at the bottom of the plate. Using the same technique, we'll trace 5 lines. And again, always check your measurements twice. When you draw your lines, they should be light, but still visible enough. And once we have our 5 lines, we'll mark 20 millimeters on the other edge and mark the end of our saw line. Again, just like for the first set, we are not going to cut all the way across. We'll stop a little bit before that so that our piece of metal stays together in one piece. So this is, again, with the set square, this is how you trace the line at the end of your saw line. Now we'll take our other piece of brass and transfer the design for the second exercise. The first one is a wavy line, the curved line. Set your dividers at 15 millimeters and double check your measurement. And follow the same technique to trace this line on your plate. Now we need to make marks every 10 millimeters on this plate. So you can use your precision scriber and your ruler to make these marks every 10 millimeters. And as before, we'll stop at 20 millimeters from the edge. This is the end of our saw line. Now we need to draw semicircles on the line, but first it helps to make a little dent, a small dent with our scriber to anchor the leg of the dividers and to prevent it from slipping. Once you have that, you can trace your semicircle, and you are going to alternate one on above the line and the next one under the line, and so on until the end. And you notice that the semicircles match exactly, so they form a continuous wavy line. And that's it. It's the end of the saw line, 20 millimeters. And we have the first part of the second exercise, the curved line or wavy line. Now we are going to work on the second part of this exercise, and it's a jagged line. We need two lines. The first one is at 5 millimeters from the edge, from the bottom edge. Trace it with your dividers as usual. And for the second one, set your dividers at 15 millimeters. So this is your second line, parallel to the first one, of course, and the distance between these two lines is 10 millimeters because we set our dividers at 15 millimeters for this one. Now again, set the dividers at 10, and on your line, you will, on both lines, you're going to mark, make a mark every 10 millimeters. So we've done it on the first one here. You can repeat the process with the ruler if you want, that will work, or you can use your set square, and this is a little faster. You can line up the two marks this way very quickly and precisely. And you rest the edge or the foot of the set square on the edge of your plate for this, to line up everything. Now, to create the jagged line, we are going to join these marks, and starting from the edge, to make the process a little bit easier, make a small dent with your scriber first, and then you can join the 2 points very precisely with your scriber and your ruler. And you are going to continue, not quite to the end. Again, we need to stop at 20 millimeters from the edge. This will be the end of our saw line. And make sure your line is not too deep, not too light, and you only draw one line. That's very important. So that's it. We have our 2 set of lines for the second exercise. Thanks for watching.